Now that you've found UBN Radio and discovered our quality talk shows, it's time to spread the word to friends, family, and the universe. 24 hours of music and talk. Radio without limits. That's why people keep coming back for more. That's UBNradio.com.
And greetings and salutations, everyone. Here we go. Thank you so much for tuning in and watching. You have tuned into and are watching Dr. Judy, WTF, which of course stands for What the Freud. I am your host, Walt Lusk, and Dr. Judy Rosenberg's the founder of Dr. Judy, WTF, What the Freud, and the Psychological Healing Center here in Los Angeles. And we have a great guest in the studio who's been here before, Jay Klapperman, who is one of the fabulous associates and therapists that works with Dr. Judy in his round the world therapy. He's on Skype and the phone and in Beverly Hills. He's all over the place. So hey, say hey, Jay.
Hey, how are you?
And we are going to talk a little bit about how to talk to a narcissist. For a while, Jay's come up with some really innovative ideas to do that. And then if we get time, we're going to talk about narcissism, death, and expectations. So stay tuned for that. And of course, we have our Shrink That Tune song. And you stay tuned for that, where we'll shrink a song at the end. And, we're all narcissistic around here about narcissism, Dr. Judy.
Yeah, it's been a very, very popular topic. And a lot of people ask me what to do about their narcissistic parents. Should I cut them off? Should I go no contact? Should I just contact them a little bit? And so a large part of what we're going to talk about today is what happens when a narcissist is dying and the expectations that people have of their parent who they're wishing, praying, hoping will come around and see the light and give them all the unconditional love that they never really had during their years of life. And so Jay Klapperman, my wonderful intern at the Psychological Healing Center, came up with an interesting dialogue as to how to talk to a narcissist. And I think this is very useful because what's worse than losing a parent is losing a parent that you've been very upset at because they haven't been treating you well during the course of their lifetime. And then you not only lose the parent, but they will all their money to somebody else.
Oh, yeah, they take you out of the will.
I've seen it happen.
Mm-hmm. Yes,
okay?
indeed. You didn't give them enough narcissistic supply
right, so
while you're alive, so they punish you in death.
Right. And so some people, and we've been getting so many emails, letters, thank you so much from the bottom of my heart. And we're so appreciative of all the people who are getting involved. And so many people are calling to ask for mind map therapy. And we're doing mind map therapy all over the world. Thank you, Jay.
Jay's a big part of that.
Yeah, you are. And so, how do you talk to a narcissist? Okay. So it's kind of like walking on eggshells because certainly, right, you don't want to piss them off. You don't want to, especially if you strategically don't want to lose your inheritance, for example, or she's your husband, wife, sister, brother, boss, and you need the job. You don't want to get divorced. You don't want to ruin a family over it. What do you do? I mean, what do you do?
Well, the difference is that there's, and we've talked about this on the show before, codependency and coexistence. So the difference between the two of those is that the codependent relationship with the narcissist is based on the fact that the narcissist is not able to give you enough love, attention, recognition.
Okay.
So when that occurs, it makes you want more. The need becomes greater and
Absolutely.
greater.
So it's a deprivation.
Correct.
Yeah. Okay.
So that intensifies the relationship, and in a roundabout way, what the narcissist is doing is keeping you close because they are, if what you mentioned, they're feeding off of your attention that you're providing them.
Right.
Now, how do you talk to someone like this? So,
And you're going to have to hold real quick. Let's see.
By the way, Walt, is the camera working? It is. Thank you.
Just improve it.
Okay.
Hey, thanks for calling. You're on the couch with Dr. Judy and on air.
Hey, hi. Am I on the radio?
You sure are.
You sure are.
And who are you?
Oh, I'm Debbie.
Hi, Debbie. And you're calling from where?
I'm calling from Bremerton, Washington.
In Washington.
Beautiful.
Beaverton,
Okay.
Washington.
Yeah.
Okay.
Bremerton, Seattle.
River, yes.
Seattle, Washington.
Well, welcome.
Thank you so much for calling in. As you know, we're talking about the subject of how to talk to a narcissist and how to delicately tiptoe through the tulips, if you will, if you must.
Right.
Okay. And so
Right.
tell me a little bit about why you're calling, and then we'll continue the discussion on how to talk to a narcissist without pissing them off. Go ahead.
Okay.
Good luck with that.
Okay, well, I'm calling because I'm a lost soul. And
Okay.
I was also married to a narcissist for 24 years.
Mm-hmm.
And yes, I had a hard time with him and a problem, and I had 2 kids, and
Okay.
it was terrible, to even, get to have him agree with anything that I wanted to do or anything that he wanted to do something, and he wanted to do it, and there was no discussion. We just, did what he wanted to do.
It's his way or the highway.
I have a good idea. Now, Jay and I were going to rehearse how to talk to narcissists, but I'm going to invite you to do something creative, Jay, if you're up for it. Okay. So, Debbie, how about you be tell Debbie the roles that you want to play, and let's see if we can do this with Debbie.
okay, let's say you're your husband, okay, and
She had a
you,
little experience in that.
yes, and married for a long time, and each time you try to get something from him, present an idea, you're stonewalled because he always wants to do it his way. Now, how
Right.
would you talk to him that would allow the narcissistic husband to let his guard down? Because that's what's going on the whole time. Because of the extreme insecurity that the narcissist has experienced over life, which on the mind map is the initial wound that we're talking about.
Right.
Right.
So if you approach the narcissist with, it's got to be my way, or pushing the narcissist in an area they're uncomfortable with, it's going to reopen this wound. So what you have to do is use words that are going to elevate the esteem of the narcissist.
Because they're suffering, right? This narcissist
they
is
really
really
are-
a narcissistically injured
Very
soul.
much in pain and very injured.
And they're not
and
doing
wounded.
well, and their defense mechanism.
And I'm not doing well because I've been wounded too and injured.
Exactly.
Most
so this is going to
definitely.
boomerang. Okay, so your wounds
Right.
and his wounds are going to coalesce and open up, and it's going to be a big breakdown of panel 4, 5, 6 of chaos, defenses, and breakdowns. So go ahead, Jay, because I want you to role play a little bit with her, if you will.
Let's say you want to bring up an idea to your husband. So by talking to your husband and saying, what's your husband's name?
Oh, Gary.
Gary.
Ex-husband.
Ex-husband, right?
Ex-husband.
Yes,
Okay.
ex-husband. Yes.
All right. Well, we know what caused that. Okay, but
Yes,
the deal is this, Gary. You always have some really great ideas, and I really trust your judgment on things. And there's some ideas that maybe you might be interested in. And so then right away, the narcissist or Gary is going to perk up and say, well, she's talking about me and praising me. Therefore, I don't have to feel defensive right now, which allows you the opportunity to present your idea to him versus saying, Gary, I have an idea and I want it to be this way. And if you don't like it, it's too bad. If you
No,
came
he
at
says that to me.
yeah,
Well, see that, but it's okay for him
He
to
says that to me.
It's okay for him to do that.
it's okay for him to act that way because he's a narcissist.
It's
Okay.
in his DNA.
Yes,
No.
but
Yeah, it is in
psycho
his DNA.
DNA,
He's
Walt,
not
his
nice. He's
psycho
not a nice
DNA.
person, okay? They're very evil people.
Yes.
well, let
yes.
me
There's
address
no
this.
way that he's nice to me or I'm nice to him because he does it his way and that's it, his way, my way or the highway type thing.
Now, I've heard this
Yes.
term used in many of my clients, this word evil or diabolical. Now, you can think that what this person is doing, because it's hurtful to you, is pre-planned and it's, that person wants to hurt you. Okay?
Right.
But
Yeah.
it's
He
based
sets me up a lot.
Yeah, but it's based on a pain or an
Right,
unhealed
his injury.
wound from the past. Now,
Right.
so what's great about the mind map is you can use the mind map to look at his background. So you could say, well, okay, what are his wounds, which are panel number 1? And then you can say, where did those come from? It came from his father or his grandfather, which takes you to panel 3, the encoding. So it's in the DNA in there. So
And the psycho DNA.
yeah, the psycho DNA. So he doesn't really realize what he's doing. He's just doing what he's learned over the generations.
He's grown up with it.
Yes, it's
Yeah, he's a military person, or about three generations of military. So he's grown up in a military form of living.
Yeehaw.
Yeah. So if you structure or reframe how you talk to him in a way that's going to elevate him right from the very beginning,
Beautiful.
it opens the door for you to present whatever you want to that person without them feeling defensive. And if you keep that kind of feeling going throughout, you may get the recognition and the acclaim that you're seeking. Now, it may come in a kind of a backdoor way, if you will, and it may not be, direct A to B, like, oh, that's a great idea. But just by having the narcissist acknowledge you are achieving your goal.
You're using his narcissism in your favor.
Correct.
Right. Now, I just want to make a couple of comments because people bring this up all the time, and I have a little. I see people battling on the emails that they send back and forth on our YouTube episodes. The comments.
Yeah,
well,
the
no,
comment-
they're
the comments
evil.
on the
Just cut
comments.
them out. Now, there's no denial that people who rape and kill and beat and demean and devalue and destroy. I mean, look, does it come from pathology? I think yes. In some cases, does it come from a brain tumor or some kind of an extreme chemical balance? Of course, there are cases like that. But we're talking about people who are within the realm, okay? There are different levels of narcissism. Obviously, if you're going to be so demeaned, so devalued, so destroyed by an individual that's of a high-level injury, then, run. Don't walk, run.
Yeah,
and if you can't,
exactly.
if it's
that's exactly what I did.
Okay,
I never
good.
looked back.
Good. All
Good
right.
for
So
you.
I'm not suggesting to anybody out there withstand it and and learn to talk to them. If you're just about
Yeah, you can't.
if
You
you're about
can't learn to talk to them.
Well,
they have their own mind.
but in some cases you can soften up their defenses, is what Jay is saying, and you can get in there. And I'm talking about these cases where you've got children with the person, you have a family,
right.
It's your brother, your mother, your sister, and they haven't raped you, they haven't beaten you, they haven't violated to the extent where you just have to go no contact, but they have these narcissistic tendencies. So how do you talk to people like this?
Tendency,
Yes.
yeah, it's a tendency, all right.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the understanding using the word evil or diabolical, like I said earlier, I've heard it before. The idea is that the narcissist doesn't really know why they're doing it. They just have a need to do it.
Yeah.
And
Right.
if you are able to understand that dynamic and understand that it's coming from extreme insecurity versus someone who has a huge ego because they're really skilled at life and interpersonal relationships and stuff like that, then you can have empathy for them instead of internalizing it as being something that's wrong with you, which is the tendency that most people do, ergo run the other
Right.
way.
And that's where
Right.
it gets tricky, because the narcissist, Debbie, will activate your own core belief and you'll be activating his core belief. So you may have a core belief like, I don't matter, or I'm not important. And guess what? Your ex may have the very same core belief, but you're expressing it differently. So in
Right.
his case, he's going to make sure that he is important. He's going to stomp and put his foot down and
Right.
and insists that he's important. And when he insists that he's important, he will trigger off your core belief that you're not important. And then boomerang, the defenses start cracking open, and people will be imploding and exploding, and before you know it, the relationship is done. Okay.
That
Right.
stew is overcooked.
Yeah, the stew is
Yeah.
over. Yeah, stew
Yeah,
is
so-
overcooked.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
being in the midst of this kind of scenario and not understanding really what's going on, in other words, the wounds that the narcissist really has, and
Right.
which are fueling his behavior, his or her
Right.
behavior, then you can only react to it, as Dr. Judy is stating, because it's
Right.
opening some wounds inside of you as well. And so you walk away thinking, he's right, I'm worthless, I'm not, nothing I say is of any value, and so on. However, like what I'm saying is, in a normal situation, if you went to somebody and said, I have an idea to talk about, and I think it's a really good idea, they'd say, oh, okay, let's talk about
Right.
it.
Right.
But you're not
A normal
dealing
person.
with a person
No.
that is
Normal.
dealing from,
Normal.
as Walt is so, as Walt is like defining and is so true, not normal.
Right.
Okay.
Even though what is normal, but it's not normal.
Exactly.
And one other layer I want to add to this is that if you heal your own wounds, okay, let's say,
Right.
I don't know what your core belief is, but let's say it's approximately something like, I don't matter. Because if that's approximately what it is, then the wounded person will attract the wounder. And the wounder is going to make sure that he activates this I don't matter stuff within you. But guess what? If you heal your I don't matter stuff,
Right.
okay, and heal your wounds from childhood and the core beliefs that it left you with, and what that does is put you in a causal position. By the way,
Right.
everyone, I just wrote a beautiful blog on the website psychologicalhealingcenter.com or
Right.
drjudywtf.com on what it means to be the cause. Okay, so now you heal your wounds, and now you're not activated in that department anymore.
Right.
So you can just kind of look at him and say, gee, isn't that sad that he's acting like a 2-year-old and he's stomping his feet and being this way? Or if you're not quite in a relationship with the narcissist, then you can just walk away and just say, I don't want to get involved with this. I'm going to pick a healthier person to engage with. I don't want to be always walking on eggshells. Okay, because then you have
Right.
choices. Then you can identify it, meaning the projection, because he's projecting his insecurities on you, but you don't get hooked in and
Right.
taken down by it, so you can identify it, not identify with it.
Right.
Correct.
Yes.
Because
I
you're-
agree. I'm healing right now, and I see all that stuff now that happened. I've been divorced now for 13 years, and
Okay.
I'm just, I see what happened, and I see exactly what you're saying. And I didn't know any of that.
Did you have Dr. Judy's book, if I recall?
Yeah,
Don't you?
yeah,
Great.
yeah.
Thank you. Great.
So yeah, I'm doing all that stuff, and I'm trying to,
Okay.
go ahead and heal, and it's really opened my eyes on his wounds and my wounds, and
Yes.
and he said that he was wounded. I didn't know that. I mean, I didn't know, he was, and I didn't know I was. So we always clashed.
Yes.
but-
We had a caller in a few weeks ago or a month or so ago, and the couple recognized within each other these narcissistic wounds, and then they went on a journey together to heal themselves so they didn't split the marriage. They worked very, very hard to identify the issues, heal the issues, and then regroup as a couple. And they're doing, I think, quite
Yeah, they're doing
nicely.
very well. And what's
Yes.
interesting is one of the beautiful things I like about the mind map and Dr. Judy is we focus on the wound and the injury as opposed to the individual. Now, granted, the wound and the injury is part of the individual, but in reality, it's not the whole individual. And if we're able to isolate and address just specifically those wounds and find the cause of them, then we have a fighting chance.
And then we can free the individual from the shadows from the past and let that person clear away that darkness, so to speak, the clouds, I call them the psychoviruses, the infiltrations that go in there and wreak havoc on the person. And then literally that person has a chance to get out of this psychological jail, if you will. And that's the purpose of the mind map journey that we put people through. We literally have people go through a process whereby they go from the wounds of the past and the encoding of that through dismantling all of that that sickness and the system's gone wrong, so to speak, and then recoding them into health. And that is possible to do because I believe the human soul wants to heal.
Yes.
And once we get on a path of healing, I think healing begets healing. And I'm seeing some pretty beautiful, miraculous things in my practice. One of them was tonight. I had a woman walk into my office last night. She just showed up in my waiting area. I finally noticed that she was there for a free consultation, and she waited patiently, and she was really, really a mess from very, very severe childhood trauma. The next day, and she was telling me how she was in an abusive relationship. Well, the next day, her abuser shows up at my office and says, "I want to heal." Isn't that something?
Oh, wow. That's
amazing.
amazing.
Wow. Amazing. Okay, so I think that people really don't want to be this way, okay?
No,
Big secret.
And like you said, everybody's been injured, you know, one way or the other. And I was injured when I was, a child. I had childhood injuries, and then I went into the same thing when I got married,
Exactly.
into that pattern, the same pattern, because that's, like you said, what was familiar to me.
Familial, and I'm imagining that you were demeaned, devalued, destroyed, and maybe even neglected. Is that accurate?
Yeah, exactly. That's the way I was in the childhood. I was neglected, and because in the 50s it was, the child is to be seen and not heard.
Yes,
and
latchkey children.
Yeah, exactly. So your feelings didn't matter. You didn't matter. You were just to be seen, and do what you're supposed to do. And and then I went ahead and went on and used the pattern to get in the same situation when I got married.
What panel are you in the book?
I'm on panel 3.
Panel number 3. Okay, perfect, because we're talking about encoding. So you can see exactly what your core belief is. So keep working the plan. And again, here is Jay Klapperman. If you do feel the need to reach out and literally go through this mind map journey. And
I am going through it. I'm going to go through it.
That's amazing. That's amazing. Okay, so
You mean you're beginning to think like a shrink?
Yeah, well, I hope so. It's really eye-opening for me that I had this pattern, and I understood that. I understand that now. I didn't understand it before. I didn't understand why I was having so many problems and why I was feeling the way I was feeling and why things weren't working out for me, and it was just really frustrating and very depressive, and I was anxious and angry and why is this happening to me? And I'm a good person, and and now I know why. it's happening and why it happened, and now I'm going to heal myself and go through the mind map.
And we've got another call going.
We
So
have another call coming in. Okay, Debbie, will you
Thanks
let
so
me
much,
know?
Debbie,
Let me
calling.
know how you're doing. Okay,
Oh, I
be in touch.
sure will. Thank you for
Okay.
having me.
Hey, thanks for
and
calling.
read the Be the Cause blog on the website. I think you're going to enjoy reading it.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank
Have
you
a good
Thanks,
for
Debbie.
evening.
calling in.
Bye-bye.
Love you.
Okay,
Bye-bye.
love you too.
Well, we have another call. Hi, thanks for holding and getting on the couch to Dr. Judy.
Yes, I have a question. My name's Eva.
Hi, Eva. Do you
Hi,
have any?
Eva.
Do you have any noise in the background?
Yes, I do. I do.
Can you turn that down
I
or
do.
off, please?
I will lower down.
There we go. Thank you. Welcome. And
Can
you're
you
calling.
hear me right now?
Yes.
Yes,
And
very
you're calling
clearly.
from where, Eva?
I'm calling from Sherman Oaks.
Sherman Oaks. Okay. Well, welcome.
Thank you. I have a question because I believe I missed one of the episodes, and I just wonder because I believe Dr. Judy, she's the most amazing doctor I came across lately. I wonder
Thank
how
you
that
very
works
much.
when in this narcissistic marriage they do choose the scapegoat child. How the narcissistic spouse chooses, like let's say there's 6 children,
Yeah.
and that person chooses only one specific person. How they do that? How that happens? The process.
Well, okay. So you're saying, so why does one get it and the other ones don't get it? Is that what you're saying?
Exactly.
Okay,
Yes.
so here's what I learned in psychoanalytic school as I was going through my program, is sometimes what happens is that one child might remind the person of another, of their parent. Okay, maybe they have the same eyes, or maybe that would be one reason, for example. So
I
let's
see.
say a couple has 6 children, okay? And
Yes.
one of those children just seems to trigger that person, their injuries, their negative core belief, a little bit more than that other child. And so that child is going to get it. Maybe maybe they will even say, you're just like maybe they hate their wife. You're just like your mother.
Oh,
You're
yes.
just like
Yes, my mom, she
my
would
mother.
say,
You're just like my father. And
Yes.
there we have it. Okay, go ahead.
Oh, I see. That makes a lot of sense because my stepmother, she always would tell me, just like your father. And
There
she
we go.
apparently hated
Hello.
my father.
No.
She always blamed
Yeah.
him for everything. Yes,
Right.
for every her failure. And she always will, compared to, him, me to him in a horrible way, very disrespectful, always putting me down.
Okay.
And yet always asking me for money.
He would what? What would he do?
Ask for money.
And she would always ask me for money,
He
to
would
give her
ask-
money, which I never understood that because, you're putting me down, you tell me I'm a horrible person, I'm just fucked up like my father, I'm sorry
Right.
for the language,
Right. It's
literally
okay.
like that.
Yeah.
And yet she would start crying and say, we don't have money, you have to give me some money.
Well,
I'm
okay.
like-
Okay, so this is a case where was she married to your father at the time, or were they divorced? Your
Yes,
stepmother?
yes, she married. I was a
Okay.
little kid. They took me from the foster care after my mom, she committed suicide. Never met her in my life. A month after I was born, my mom, she committed suicide. She died, and my dad had me and a 7-year-old daughter. And he couldn't take care of me, so he gave me away to the foster care. And my stepmom, when they remarried with the stepmother, my father, she learned from neighbors that he has additional child. So she want me back. I don't know for what reason. I wish she would never did that. I probably have a better childhood right now.
Yeah.
So they did, and that's what my nightmare started. And everything was blamed on me. I was always a scapegoat, the child, and I couldn't never understand. She always would push me away from my father. I always would tell my other sisters that my father liked me more than them, which is not true. Wasn't really true. And everybody started hating me, and she was just getting discontrol in the family. But it was just horrible. I could never understand how they're choosing that.
Well, there's an example of a system gone way wrong. And speaking of human disconnect, my God, losing your mother, 1 month old, and then the foster home, and then finally ending up in these hands. What a sad, horrible, devastating childhood you had, okay, on every level. And so apparently it seems like your stepmother didn't have very great communication skills, and maybe your father was somebody that she could not talk to and could not communicate with. And so because she was, when you block a channel, you sidestep it, and then that energy goes to somebody else, and in this case it landed right on your head. So she wasn't able to have power with your stepfather, so therefore it seems like, I don't know the exact situation, but it seems like she then had to unleash her anger and her control on someone, and tag, it seems like you were it.
Yeah, and
I see.
the other thing that comes to mind is in answering the question about why you were chosen to be the scapegoat.
Yes.
Okay, based on what you've told us right now, and one of the elements that we look for when we're using the mind map is the attachment. So it sounds to me in the very beginning, your attachment with your parents was not very strong at all, which leaves you being needy and maybe oversensitive.
Vulnerable.
Right.
Now, when a narcissist is looking for someone, as I'm going to use the word victim, if you will.
Vulnerable?
Vulnerable, yes. What they want what they like is to see how they affect somebody. So if they were able to make you cry or, cringe or something like that, in a weird kind of a way, it's an elevation of their power.
Yeah, how sad.
I see.
And another thing that I think you mentioned is that you announced to the other children that your father loved you more. Is that right?
Correct. That's what my stepmother was claiming. However, I don't believe that was the issue. I believe that from like this, from the time I'm looking back, I'm thinking she just wanted to gain a power, just like you're saying.
Exactly,
So,
but look at the structure. Everybody was so needy that they became greedy, and there wasn't enough to go around. There wasn't enough love to go around, so they were looking at love as a commodity. Oh my God, you're taking love away from us? Well, we're not going to allow for that to happen. And it's the parents that create the sibling rivalry, the parents, the step-parents, because if the parents are healthy, and if they're the pillars and they have healthy boundaries and rules and roles, they own their own stuff, okay? They self-reflect and self-correct on their own issues, then they don't project on the children, and the children don't have to be the battleground. They don't have to be the scapegoat or the lost child or the golden child. Then they're solving their problems internally between each other, and they don't have to create this mess. So when you see siblings that are not getting along, who is the cause?
Yes.
You see that?
Yes,
It's always the parents.
Yep,
And I don't
yep,
say
yep.
fault because it's multi-generational, and this is just from one generation to the next.
And it was extremely sad to me, because that's when I kind of start recognizing that something's not right in our family system. When my mom passed away, stepmother, she passed away. She did apologize when she was dying for a lot of things.
Oh, amazing, because that's our next topic. She
my
actually
goodness.
did. Amazing. What about your father? Is he alive?
Oh, my goodness.
She apologized.
Was it
for things.
authentic? Was it authentic?
Yes, it was very authentic.
Okay, what about your father? Did he apologize?
And this is the problem. So just very quickly to say, I was shocked, because that's how I start recognizing that something's wrong in our family model, because when they passed away, my stepmother passed away, my sister, just the half a sister, the one who's extremely close to stepmother, she started talking to me exactly like stepmother.
Wow.
And I was shocked.
So she became...
I was shocked.
Wow. So I know we're short on time while we have a few minutes, but I wanted to ask you, what happened between you and your father? Is he still alive?
Yes, no, he passed away, and
Did he
unfortunately,
apologize? Did
no
he?
no one called me and let me know that he is dying, and he was desperate to say goodbye to me.
Wow. Well,
They
we're
did
we're
this
going to
purposely.
continue. We're going to continue this, Walt,
Oh, we
because
sure are. You
we
kidding
have
me?
a lot
We
of
haven't even- we've
material
just
about. I just
scratched the
wanted to
surface.
say one thing because that was the original topic of the show was narcissism, expectations, and death.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
And
We're going to
so
be diving into that next
Well,
week.
we're going to have to
Oh,
because
very much
it's a
so.
huge topic.
Yes, it
and
is.
what I've seen in my practice, and you may also see this in your practice, is that when people are losing their narcissistically injured parents, they wish very much that the parent would finally see the light and apologize. And Walt, I know that you did a lot of
Oh, my
research on this,
goodness.
and we're going to get into
Oh,
it.
my
But you
goodness.
have a comment in general of what they actually do at the end of their life?
Well,
Usually,
you
not
want
always.
the punchline? You want the
I
end?
want the punchline, and then we're going to reconstruct it next
The
week.
punchline is if you're waiting for them to apologize, it never happens.
Well,
in fact,
hardly ever happens.
It very rarely happens.
Very
and in
rarely.
fact, mom and dad, more often than not, they double down on it because they want to make darn sure that all of their stuff doesn't get discovered.
Yeah. Yeah.
I
And
I just didn't even was looking for any apology. That wasn't even really the matter. It's just at this point I really don't care. My life is so I had been so wounded and had been so hurt that it just doesn't matter. I just let it go. All I wanted to say is goodbye, Dad. I love you, and you go whatever you have to go.
Yeah.
And my and my family purposely, that stepsister purposely, she did not contact me because it was enough time to contact me.
well,
It was 2
again,
weeks.
they didn't want this. They didn't want this acknowledgement to happen. So I know. Are we out of time, Walt?
We got 10 minutes.
Oh, we have.
Yeah,
Oh,
until we do
I
the
thought you
song.
were saying
Well, we have
to
a third
me-
caller.
Oh, we have a third caller.
Yeah.
Okay, so look, you get the drift that there's a shortage of love, okay? Everybody's injured, everybody's scrambling, and nobody feels good, and they just want to vomit out their horrible feelings and just have it fly all over everybody, and it's just a very, very big mess. So we will
I am
continue
so thankful
this.
for your answers. Walt
Thanks for
and
calling.
Dr. Judy, it helped me a lot. By the way, I am one of the patients of Dr. Judy, and I absolutely adore her, and I love her work, and I love her
Thank you.
also Walt.
Well,
as
thank
well.
you so much.
Thank you so much.
And
So kind
keep us
of
posted.
you.
God bless.
Thank you so
and
much. Thank
Bye.
you. God bless.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye. All righty. I think we lost the third caller.
Oh, we did.
Yeah, it
Okay.
was
Well, then
little
why
late,
don't
so-
you pull some articles
So
out?
I can pull some
on this?
articles, or I was going to say while we're here, Jay, and talking about a narcissist, is there any other aspects or role playing or whatever that?
I'd like to say something about the apology that she got.
Sure.
Go for it.
What Walt is saying is absolutely correct. In other words, don't hold your breath. Okay.
No.
But in this case, if the apology came, it's a total gift because it validates that the stepmother was in the midst of
Hold on a
everything,
second, Barbara.
and she knew what was going on, which then would have a tendency to allow.
Hold on a second.
Oh, I think a caller. Yeah. Okay.
we-
Hold on. Just want to finish one thought. Go ahead.
Would allow the last caller to release the concept that there was something wrong with them.
And another thing that I want to bring up, I don't think the stepmother was quite the narcissist. I mean, the with a capital T. I think it was probably the father that was the narcissist and the stepmother that was people-pleasing and trying to
Keep everybody happy.
keep everybody happy.
Yeah, keep it all
and-
together.
Yeah, keep it all together.
Yeah.
Right.
So
But yeah.
there
Okay.
you go. But it's quite a tasty stew. And now we have Barbara. Thanks for calling, Barbara. Good morning.
Hello, good morning,
Good
from
morning.
Spain.
From Spain. Oh, hi. How are you?
Yeah, see, I cheated. Her name came up. So,
Barbara.
Hi.
hey, Barbara.
I'm
How?
sitting next to your favorite right here.
So, how have you
Yes.
been? So, cómo está? How have you been?
Fine. Yeah, but I just couldn't help it. I wanted to see you and listen to this topic because it's of course, very, very important to me.
Yes.
First of all, just thank you, all of you, and a huge hug, really,
Back
because
at
you're
you, I saw
in my
your
life.
beautiful, beautiful picture and your dog, and you just seem like the sweetest, sweetest woman.
See,
and I know
get
that
to
you're.
see. I get to see her on Skype. You guys used to hear her.
Yeah, I mean, I know the little that I know.
I'm very sleepy.
You're what are you? What?
No, I'm very sleepy. If
Well, no,
he's
well,
seeing
of course,
me,
it's only what is
Very
it 4 in the morning or
sleepy.
5 in the morning where you are? What time is it?
yeah, 5:48.
5. Okay,
Amazing.
quarter to 6. Okay, good
so,
morning.
So you woke up just to give us all this love and hugs and thank yous?
Yes.
Oh my God. Okay.
Barbara
Yeah.
grasped the concept so quickly.
Yeah.
It was like amazing.
Fish
Well,
to
she
water.
had a little help.
Well,
From her wonderful
did-
therapist, okay?
Barbara had to the idea of like wanting to do it
Yes.
and making up your mind that this is so important that
Yeah.
you want to make the change is the foundation for any kind of good therapeutic interaction. She had it in spades.
Yeah.
You were ready.
And I know that you you wrote to me about some miracles that happened in your life as a result of your confronting people and your own growth. Is
Oh,
that
wow.
correct?
Yeah.
You want to share
Can-
maybe
can-
a little
can you
bit
give
about
us a
that?
little,
Because
little bit?
I wanted to, following the line you have in relation to narcissistic parents and when they are dying or how to talk to them.
yeah,
Well, my father is a narcissist, and but in his case, yes, he was abusive. So finally, I had to talk to him, tell him how I felt about everything. At least the pain I felt he had caused in my life, and I had to put him very far from
Yes.
me. But
Yes.
the thing is that he's old, and of course, he knows the end is nearer. And the thing is that I still love him despite of all his abuse of everything he's done. And I told him, I want you far, but if something ever happens to you or if you need anything, I will always be here because I'm your daughter and I love you. And the thing is that how do you talk to, I would like to know what Jay was going to explain, how to talk to a dying narcissist,
a
How can
dying
you?
narcissist.
Wow. We're gonna continue this topic next week, Barbara. So you're gonna have to stay
Do you
tuned.
want to?
But we'll dive in here.
I'll do it in individual if you want.
No,
yeah,
no, go.
or just
well,
go ahead. And
for the
tell
listeners now that
her,
we're out there.
in a
Well,
minute, what your
I-
idea is.
Yeah,
Is
well,
that-
I know the history here a bit, and what's happened is that Barbara found the inner strength to be able to express herself to her father for the first time,
Okay.
which was very liberating for her. Made her lift a lot of weight off of her.
Yeah, I'm sad,
And so
sure
she
it did.
disconnected physically from him, and now he's contacting her and wanting to try and make amends.
Okay.
So what we're working on is how to have healthy boundaries with him and being realistic if he is seeking to apologize. What is realistic? So we worked on the idea, is he wanting to do this because the worst thing for a narcissist is to have the people around them leave, and that leaves them alone with themselves.
So
They
the agenda then is what you're suggesting. Please don't leave me at my deathbed. I'm going to behave now.
Don't abandon
Yeah,
me.
but-
Don't abandon me.
yeah.
I'm ready to behave, okay?
Oh, behave.
Because I don't want to die alone. Is that what you're suggesting?
Yeah. So, but the
Okay.
idea is that now that Barbara has discovered an inner strength and an idea of what's involved with narcissism, and especially in her case with her father, is to have a set of boundaries with her if she chooses to speak to him, because either he's being sincere, which would be great,
Yeah.
or he wants to reel her back in.
Or a little bit of both, okay? Because I think that once we are facing our death, it's possible that the narcissistic shell begins to crack, because underneath the narcissistic shell and all of those injuries is our light, our humanity, our soul. And the closer we get to death, the more we are motivated or maybe willing to let all that go, because we're going anyway, so we might as well just let some of that go.
That's the psyche of a normal person.
Yeah, and sometimes
A non-narcissist.
we're going to continue this, because sometimes it takes tragedy and death for this horrific narcissistic shell to crack.
But like what Barbara's saying, and what is the rub in all of this all the time, is there's always the need for love underneath.
I think so.
Well, the biggest force really is unconditional love.
Unconditional love.
Unconditional love.
Most powerful
Absolutely.
healing force on the planet.
Definitely.
Okay? And so I think, Barbara, you have to look and see if you're reaching for him and connect, healing the human disconnect. If it hurts you, then not a good idea. If it doesn't hurt, you have to be the judge of whether you're enhancing your being or not enhancing your being in this interaction.
The one thing I've talked about very quickly in an analogy is cargo. If somebody in your life, are they crew or are they cargo? Okay? And if the ship is having issues, sometimes you have to let go of some of the cargo so the ship can survive the storm. Are they crew or are they cargo?
And also, most cases they're cargo, right? The narcissists, because they're taking more. But you see that principle of unconditional love, that highest place where human soul can go. At the end of the day, we want to be compassionate. We want to become like source energy, like consciousness of Buddha or Christ, or high level consciousness of a rabbi, or whatever we identify with religiously or spiritually. And we have to ask ourselves, what would this higher soul be doing? So ultimately it is about us. And so if we practice compassion because we want to, and because we're healed, and now that you see, the more healed you are, the more generous you can be.
And it's a
if
choice.
you're healed, then right? Doesn't that make sense? You could be generous.
Completely. You just answered really my question, and I don't have a doubt now. Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Wow. What did I say that?
Wow. Okay.
So what are you going to do with all this now?
Yeah.
No.
I will, when the time comes, what makes me feel good is to talk to my father, but knowing, not expecting anything, just out of love, because
Amazing.
I cannot help that feeling.
Wow. It's powerful.
And no expectations.
No expectations. And the last thing a child wants is to really disconnect from a parent. Ultimately,
that's
they don't really. But if one must. But if one is more in a healed state, then that person can become much more compassionate and much more generous. So. Thank you.
Could I say something? Just
fire away. Sure.
Yeah. No, I just wanted to say that really this therapy is incredible. I had the experience of being released from my own therapy, from my own psychiatrists and psychologists here at the public service.
When did that happen?
Service.
When did that happen?
They released me. Actually, I began therapy, mind map therapy, and in 2 months, not less than 2 months, in a month,
2 months. Wow.
They released me, and I was supposed to be in therapy for years, maybe, due to my traumas and all my history. So
incredible.
The psychologists and psychiatrists were I don't know, were amazed, and they told me, we really have to release you because your anxiety and your depression is gone, and your clinical symptoms are not there anymore. So you are
Wow.
okay. And I don't know
Wow.
what you're doing, but
But
just keep
just
doing what you're doing.
don't tell my colleagues they don't like me, okay? Because they prefer to do this in 2, 3 years, 5 years, 10 years, and I'm just
Un-
not a fan. I'm not a
Unfortunately,
fan
Barbara,
of-
you got too well. They couldn't keep you. You were too well.
Yeah, because they said, what you've gone through is emotionally is similar to people who have been tortured or who have been in a war. And I was like, oh my God, because I didn't even realize the seriousness of my case. No, I became aware little by little. And they said, no, this is incredible, the resilience, no, that you have, no,
I'm just
and so
wow.
we really have to let you go because you are even healthier than a normal person because you are aware. That was like,
Just don't
wow.
don't
because
tell my
I just
colleagues,
thought-
okay?
Wait. Healthier than a
But
normal
if
person.
you knew, no, if you knew, because it's okay. I know I've been like trying to heal myself my entire life and trying to search for different things to help me. But, it's like if you knew the therapy I'm going through, and my great therapist Jay and Dr. Judy, and Walt, if you knew them. So really, it's incredible to me. It has
Well,
been,
Unbelievable.
Barbara,
I
thank you
don't
so
know.
much for
Yes.
sharing that.
Yes.
Healthier than a normal person. So what you're saying is you went through a lot of what we call PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder.
Yes.
Wow,
Yes.
that's
And
serious stuff.
you're free of medication now, is that correct?
Yeah, she told me that, well, I was taking very little medication, antidepressants,
Yes.
just in order to act as a psychological cast,
Okay.
because I had to stop and to be, a small help. But she said that I really didn't need it anymore. But to just continue a little bit with it, ensure the change, and
Right. Make
and
sure that it really is sustainable on a long-term basis.
Right,
I understand.
and sometimes to do that needs to be gradual.
And I do use that term,
But they
psychological
said-
cast. Yes,
Yeah,
psychiatry is giving that cast so you can heal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the plan is to take it away now in December, January. So I would
Beautiful.
have been only 6 months with
Fabulous.
medication.
I am so impressed. I'm just I'm beaming right there
Well,
with
you know what, Barbara?
It's-
We what the point is, you tried to heal yourself, right? And you went about as far as you could. You discovered Dr. Judy in our show and Jay, and here you are. Didn't do it by yourself.
Yeah.
You did the work, but you had
Yeah.
help.
Thank you. And whenever I have money, I will really go there to LA and give you all a hug. Really, really.
Well, you're welcome
One day
anytime.
I
I
will.
would just
welcome
love
anytime.
that. I would
Sure.
just love that.
Yeah.
It would be my honor.
Me too.
And it'll be a big hug.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And your dogs.
And my dog,
Okay.
of course.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Well,
Okay.
thank you so much for this beautiful call, acknowledgement, sharing of your journey, and I'm really bowled over. So pretty speechless about what your other team said in Spain, that you're now being officially released from a lot of the other medication that you're slowly getting off of, and.
Well, in fact, my psychologist and psychiatrist said that why didn't I became a psychologist if I liked it? Because, I had been like my entire life really searching and working with myself and everything. And I said, yeah, it was one of my dreams in my life. No,
Well,
I
you're
really
never
liked that.
never too old. So as you heal,
No,
maybe
it's
you'll
never too late.
maybe you will
I
become
enrolled-
one, and maybe you'll join the team. How's that?
I
Okay.
I just enrolled in psychology.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh wow! Good for
Wow.
you. The first mind mapper in Spain.
Yeah. Oh, that would be wonderful.
There you go.
Well, Jay is learning Spanish, so I think
Okay,
You
I'll
will
I'll have to catch up with him.
All right.
I'll
Well,
have to catch up.
muy
Okay,
bueno.
I won't take more of your time. I know
So
the show
thanks
has
for
to
calling.
end. So
Yes, we do.
thank you.
Thank you. Muchas
Thank you very
gracias
much. Muchas,
por
muchas gracias.
la, how do you say, telephone call.
Teléfono.
Por
Por la
teléfono.
llamada.
Yeah, muchas gracias. Okay.
Gracias a vosotros.
Buenas noches.
Buenas noches
Buenas
and buenos
noches.
dias. You have a blessed morning and day.
Yes.
And keep
Thank
smiling.
you. You too.
And thanks, Barbara. Keep smiling. God bless.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye.
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 And that's it. We're out of
Okay.
time.
All right.
We took Barbara's testimonial, which
So
shoot beats the heck
beautiful.
out of any song that we could.
Wow. We're
and
out of
kudos,
time?
Kudos to Jay.
We are actually
and
out of time.
kudos to
Okay,
Dr.
fine.
Judy.
We'll
And
play-
kudos to the system, and
play
we'll
the
just save it for
song.
next week.
And are you going to play the song? Or we're really
I
like
can.
out
I
of time?
can. I can play the song. We can
Okay,
close out
so
with a song.
here's what-
but
here's
we
what
can
this-
just save it for next week if you want, because we really are. We're pushed it.
Okay,
we're done.
we're gonna
yeah, we're
do
out.
it next week.
We're out of time.
You got it. That was more valuable.
You have
Okay,
absolutely.
yeah.
You have been tuning in to Dr. Judy WTF, which is What the Freud here on UBN Radio Network. You can catch us on Stitcher, iTunes, iHeartRadio. Of course, you can watch us on YouTube. And now that the Dr. Judy and the Psychological Healing Center has its own app on iPhone, you can pull that up and read the blogs and get the latest and the greatest from the show. And
And
next
also
week,
my other website, which I want to
is
point people to,
healingglobalDisconnect.com.
Because once we heal ourselves,
Yes.
we can start becoming the cause and being responsible for extending ourselves to other people and become more compassionate and becoming part of a bigger picture of healing global disconnect.
Absolutely. So, Jay, thanks so much for being a part this week.
welcome.
Couldn't have done it without you. And if you want to learn more about Jay, just call the Psychological Healing Center. They give free evaluations
Consultation.
and consultations.
Jay's there to give a free 10, 15-minute consultation, as am I.
So, God bless everyone. Thanks for tuning in. Till next week. Next week will be talking about narcissism, death, and expectations. So stay tuned and take care until. Thanks.